Chapter 17. May chewed twice more before Philip's statement hit her. After it did, Jack had to dodge bits of flying bread. "What was that again?" she said. "Nothing lives in the Black Forest," Philip repeated, "and no man has ever emerged alive from its depths." May turned to Jack. "What is he talking about?" Jack shrugged. "I don't know what to tell you. I mean, everyone knows it's cursed, but..." "Cursed?" May said, her voice going up several octaves. "Friend Jack is mistaken, Princess," Philip said. May seemed to calm down a bit at that. "Well, good," she said. "I'm telling you, I'm not sure I can handle much more creepiness." "The forest is not cursed so much as haunted," the prince finished. May just looked at Philip with disappointment, then sighed heavily and turned to Jack, throwing him a truly evil look. "You knew this?" she asked in a quiet voice. "Well, kinda," Jack said, backing a bit away from her just to be safe. "No one really knows what's in the Black Forest. I knew it wasn't going to be fun exactly, but that was it." "And why doesn't anyone know what's in there?" the princess asked, her voice still dangerously low. Jack inched even farther away. "Because no one's ever made it out alive?" he squeaked. May just stared at him for a good minute, then turned to Philip. "So, you two were going to let me just walk in there?" Philip put his hands up to calm her down. "I believe this is the first I have heard of the plan to actually go into the forest, and I did bring up my concerns immediately upon hearing of our destination." "Okay, that's true," she said to the prince. "You are off the hook." Slowly both of them turned to look at Jack. "What?" he asked, but May just glared at him. "You really should have mentioned this to the princess," Philip told him, shaking his head. "Thanks," Jack said sarcastically. "You're a big help." He turned back to May. "It's not like we had anything else to go on, so we didn't exactly have a choice. Besides, who knows what's in the woods? All we know is that no one's made it out. Maybe that means there's some kind of paradise in there. Something no one wants to leave. Or something doesn't let them leave," the prince said quietly. "Hear that?" May asked, nodding at the prince. "We're all going to die in there. And when we do, guess who I'm going to blame?" Jack's mouth dropped open. "Listen, May. None of this was my idea. It was your grandmother who said, 'Don't you dare blame this on her!'" May exploded. "You're supposed to be my guide here." "Is that what I'm doing?" Jack shouted back. "I thought I was just here to get eaten every 10 minutes. "If I may," Philip said, but both Jack and May ignored him. "If I'm so little help, maybe you two should just go in alone," Jack yelled. "Maybe we should." Fine. Jack stood up and May turned back to him. Neither said a word. Philip finally broke the silence. So go already!" May shouted at Jack, interrupting the prince. Jack growled, then grabbed his bag from the ground and stomped over to the edge of the clearing. "Enjoy your little royal expedition here, your majestic highnesses," Jack said bitterly. "I'm so glad you found a prince to help you, princess." "Now, Jack," Philip started again, but again May shouted right over him. "You have no idea what you're talking about," she yelled, jumping to her feet and following Jack to the edge of the clearing. "And your kiss was pathetic." "Kiss?" Philip asked, as Jack abruptly froze in place. "Trust me, princess," Jack said without turning around. "The feeling's completely mutual." Behind him, May growled in frustration. "Arr! I can't believe I ever wanted your help," she screamed. Jack didn't answer. He just started walking, so mad he couldn't even think of a reply. "Ow, good one," she shouted after a pause, and Jack's anger doubled, as did his pace. As soon as he was out of sight, though, Jack stopped and threw his grandfather's bag to the ground, mumbling and shaking his head about the stupidity of the princess. How moronic was she? How was he supposed to know exactly what was going on in the Black Forest when no one else did? Sure, he heard stories, just like everyone else. But who knew which of those were true? Just because the war with the animals had ended there didn't mean the whole forest was cursed after all. Still, he might have said something, but why? It's not like he hadn't taken care of her up until this point. They'd done just fine on their own so far. But how could things get any worse from a man-eating giant? Or a man-eating witch, for that matter? Jack picked up his bag and took a step back toward the clearing he'd just left. Then turned and threw his bag down again, shaking his head in disbelief at himself. She didn't need him anymore. She had her prince now, and obviously preferred him. After all, the prince could kill a giant just by standing still for a few days. All Jack had been able to do was to make it yawn. Again, he picked up the bag, but something occurred to him, and he turned to walk back down the path toward the royal panes. As he did, he caught a glimpse of someone standing just behind the trees. As he glared, the person took a step out, revealing herself. "I saw you there the whole time," Jack lied. May took a step toward him, her look not quite as hostile as it had been. "I was just checking to see if you'd left yet," she said, not looking directly at him. Jack narrowed his eyes. "Sorry, princess. I haven't gotten that far. I dropped my bag." "I saw that," she said, then paused. "Well?" "Well what? Are you leaving?" Jack shook his head. I am, but I forgot about this thing," he said, reaching into the bag to pull out a broomstick. He held the stick out to her. "It obviously likes you better, so here." May took a step forward, her mouth opened slightly, like she wanted to say something. Only nothing came out. Jack didn't say anything either. He just stood in place and shook the broomstick. May sighed, then grabbed the front of the broom. For a second, they both held it, and Jack almost found himself apologizing. Instead, he dropped his end of the broomstick. "That's it then," he said. "Goodbye, princess. Good luck rescuing your grandmother." With that, Jack turned around and started walking into the forest. "Jack," May said from behind him. What do you want me to say? That I need your help? That I want you to stay? I don't want you to say anything, Princess, other than goodbye, he said, then stepped into the woods, leaving May and her quest behind him.